Good evening, everybody. Dr. Patmos here. It is May 15th, and I have what I hope you will find to be an interesting post, excuse me, and video having to do with board certification and the duty that physicians have to report actions taken against their board certification. So, this came up because I was reading uh, a post by Dr. Peter McCullough on LinkedIn today, and he's posts, as you probably know, uh, every day on LinkedIn. He makes a lot of very strong and controversial statements and comments about vaccination and various diseases and so on and so forth. Today, he talked about hantavirus and that the patients on the people on the ship should not have been quarantined and so forth. That's a subject for another video. However, it caused me to ask the question. I am aware that Dr. McCullough lost his board certification. And for those of you who don't follow this, this was very big news in the medical world because revocation of board certification over unprofessional conduct and spreading of misinformation and false information to the public is very rare. I'm only aware of three instances where where physicians boards certified by the American Board of Internal Medicine had their board certification revoked for such transgressions. It's a very uncommon thing. Doctors do lose board certification if they fail to renew their board certification by testing or meeting maintenance of certification requirements. So it's possible to lose your board certification, but not having done anything wrong, simply forgetting to renew it or not being able to pass the renewal test. Doesn't mean you can't practice, it just means that you can't claim that you're board certified anymore. It's a totally different matter if the American Board of Internal Medicine revokes your board certification as a matter of a disciplinary sanction. That's a very different matter. And as I said before, I only know of three instances, there may be more, where physicians had their board certification revoked as a disciplinary sanction. And that happened to Dr. McCullough, unfortunately for him. He was notified of that decision in 2022. He appealed vigorously, fought it to the very end, and 3 years later, the board finally did revoke his certification. I believe it was final in 2024 or 2025. So Dr. McCullough is no longer board certified in cardiology or internal medicine. And that is an interesting dilemma because when that happens, a doctor is required to disclose that fact that you have lost your board certification for a disciplinary, as a part of a disciplinary sanction. Who do you have to disclose that to? You have to disclose that to state medical boards. Now, some state medical boards are more clear about requiring disclosure of such a matter than others, but the intent is very clear. State boards, uh, when you renew your license every 2 years, they ask a series of questions. And those questions are you still fit to practice medicine? Have you been disciplined? Have you been sanctioned? Have you lost privileges or board certification? And so those kinds of questions. And so you have to disclose that you lost your board certification, and then you sign it, you attest to the disclosures that you make as they are being true and complete to the best of your knowledge. So, not disclosing an action like this is potentially very serious. Well, Dr. McCullough on the Texas Medical Board, as of today, I just checked it, today, he is listed as board certified, which is false. He is no longer board certified, and the Texas Medical Board has incorrect information about Dr. McCullough on his profile. The American Board of Medical Specialties, now, medical boards and health plans will often refer to a website called the American Board of Medical Specialties, which has everybody's board certification status. The American Board of Internal Medicine certifies internal medicine doctors and doctors who subspecialize in various subspecialties within internal medicine, like cardiovascular disease. But there are other medical boards, such as the American College of Surgeons and American College of OBGYN, and they offer their own board certification. All of that information can be found on the website of the American Board of Medical Specialties. And that board shows Dr. McCullough as having his board certification revoked. So it says it on the website of the American Board of Medical Specialties. It does not say it on the Texas Medical Board website. Where else doesn't it say it? It doesn't say it on the Texas Blue Cross and Blue Shield website on the provider lookup. When you look up a provider on Texas Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can find the provider's office address and their phone number and so forth. And it has information about where they went to medical school, where they did their training, and if they're board certified or not. And just as with the medical board, a doctor is required to notify health plans with which they are credentialed if they lose their board certification. So if you're a doctor and you're signed up with Blue Cross and Blue Shield or Aetna or whatever health plan, and you are sanctioned and disciplined and lose your board certification, you have to report that to the health plan, because the health plan they have the obligation and the duty to remove and correct your status. They don't want enrollees getting wrong information about providers, providing incorrect information about participating doctors to enrollees in a health plan is a big deal. It could be considered that the health plan is defrauding the enrollees. So health plans are very careful about this, as they should be. They want to know if you have lost your board certification. And on the Texas Blue Cross Blue Shield website, Dr. McCullough is listed as being board certified, which we know he is not. By the way, all the documentation for this is attached below the letter from ABIM and all the other proof of everything I'm telling you. So he is still listed as board certified on the medical board website and on the Texas Blue Cross and Blue Shield website, which is unfortunate for Texans, because if they turn to those two websites with looking for information about Dr. McCullough, they're going to get incorrect information. Now, there's another thing that's also on the Texas Blue Cross Blue Shield website. It shows Dr. McCullough is affiliated with Baylor College of Medicine and the Scott and White Clinic. The entity all rolled up is called Baylor Scott and White Health. It's an integrated system with Baylor University Medical Center, affiliated hospitals, and the Scott and White Clinic and its affiliated facilities. Dr. McCullough was on staff with that organization until 2020, when he became no longer a member of the staff at that hospital and that medical staff. Now, the reason for this is unknown. This is obviously a matter of peer protection, so it's not been disclosed publicly why he's no longer a member, whether he resigned voluntarily or retired from that position or had his privileges removed. The public can't know that. But suffice it to say, in 2020, his participation, his membership on the medical staff, and his clinical privileges at Baylor, Scott, and White were terminated, and that was public information. A year later, Baylor filed a lawsuit against Dr. McCullough because he continued to claim that he was affiliated with Baylor, Scott, and White. And they sued him for a significant sum of money for falsely using his former affiliation, claiming that he was still affiliated, which is a violation. Well, they settled out. McCullough countersued. They settled out of court, and the settlement was that Baylor dropped their claim for a penalty, and McCullough agreed to stop saying he was a member of the medical staff of Baylor, Scott, and White Health. Well, he still says that on the Texas Blue Cross and Blue Shield website. If you look at their website, you do the provider lookup, you find Dr. McCullough's name, says he's board certified, which he isn't, and it also says that he's affiliated with Baylor, Scott, and White Health, which he is not. So there's some material misstatements on the Texas Blue Cross and Blue Shield website, material statements of fact that are false. And there's also material statements of fact on the Texas Medical Board website that are false. Uh, why am I making a big deal about this? Because the public deserves to know. Patients have a right to know where their doctor licensed? Are they certified? Where did they train? Have they been disciplined or sanctioned? Have they been sued and lost lawsuits? Have they been disciplined in some other manner? Patients, that's part of the patient's Bill of Rights. Patients have a right to know if their doctor has had these issues. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't still see a doctor. As long as he's got a license, he's got a license. And McCullough is still licensed. But it is unfair and it is unethical for patients not to be informed of this. This is why disclosure of these things is so very important. And failure to disclose raises a whole host of legal issues. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I did include a lot of information in the text below about what the potential consequences are for failure to disclose a disciplinary sanction with revocation of board certification. And it's not inconsequential. I hope that these websites correct the information so that the patients will have more accurate information. And I hope you found that all interesting. Have a great day.